Steve Parker Audiobooks presents Love in the End Times by Chris Mendham. Read by Kyra Jones.
Their world is scattered to the four corners of the front room. Rachel stands in the middle of the chaos clutching a large photo album. Brian stands by the front door like a gatekeeper, sand blowing in through the gap at the bottom, miniature dunes forming around his heels. I want the photos. We have to take them.
What's the point?
Brian's wide shoulders sag. Swiveling, he slips on loose papers, accounts, bills, final notices, the ephemera of a busy life now discarded, like the soiled lining of a rabbit hutch.
Shit.
Brian swears, looks at Rachel, eyes hard, and holds back what he was going to say. Turning away, he lifts a box of tinned food off the stack by the door.
There's no more room in the truck.
No more room? It's a photo album, for God's sake. Full to the brim with 2 lifetimes. Leave a few tins. Brian drops the box back onto the pile and wheels round, scooping up a fistful of papers off the floor and brandishing them at Rachel.
There's nothing, you understand? There's no going back. It's all gone.
He screws the papers up, squeezing them tight, and then lets them drop. Rachel fights the urge to scream. There'd been too much of that of late, and it made no difference. Dropping onto her knees and almost without thinking, she flattens out a piece of paper screwed up by Brian. A food hygiene certificate. She stifles a laugh, half mocking, half sob.
What?
Brian snatches the paper out of Rachel's passive hand. 5 stars. Well done. You are the best at not poisoning your customers. In that moment, all Rachel could think about was the fluffy balls of spit gathering in the corners of his mouth when Brian got excited. Before it was about bread making. Not anymore. She looks away from Brian and opens the photo album, skimming through happier times. Opening the bakery down on Main. Their first customer, Mom, in her yellow summer dress, even though it was February. She wanted to look nice, she said. And she did. A newspaper clipping when they won Best in Show. Their wedding arch made of bread. Rachel brushes dust off the photos. It wheedles its way into every nook and cranny, under every scrap of furniture, into every item of clothing, into every book, and over every photograph. She wipes at each photo, the grains of sand scratching, tiny lines crisscrossing, diminishing the images the more she wipes. But she keeps wiping. A blank space on one page, then another, and another. Memories, lost, flipping the pages faster and faster, back and forth. It's not here. It's not here. Where is it?
Where's what?
Brian flinches at the harshness in his voice. The old bakery. They'd stood in front of the crumbling building with their backs to Mom's camera, their fingers entwined. And in that moment, they became something more than bread enthusiasts and business partners. The moment they knew their lives were intertwined not just with the old bakery, but also with each other. The bakery needed time, money, and tender loving care, only one of which they had in abundance. It was more than enough to make up for the other 2. It's gone. The album slips out of Rachel's hands and slides onto the floor, dropping with a thud. Brian stares at the album.
We head to the mountains,
He says. West? They said to go east. Rachel shields her eyes against a blast of sand as Brian tugs open the front door.
Well, they were fools.
Brian! Her voice is lost in the howling wind. He picks up a box of food and walks out, slamming the door behind him. She stares at the door rattling in its frame and watches as another layer of sand settles over everything. Soon there will be nothing left to see. Lazy days by the fire, the house filled with the aroma of bread, snuggling up with a good book, and the day they signed the lease on the old bakery. Rachel looks at the discarded album. Photos printed from her phone to prove these things happened, not now lost in the ether. There were some things she was happy to never see again. A photo of food bank opening times, a captured web page on how to jumpstart a car, a photo of their location so someone could find them, and their final message as they cowered under the stairs, fists rammed in their ears to silence the screams when the great storm hit, washing away the lower part of town. Everyone who survived drifted away east shortly after, but they held on, in hope, in fear. Rachel stifles a sob as the door swings open, sand bursting in, followed by Brian. Slamming the door shut, he brushes off the worst of the dust. He sees clean tracks running down her dirty face.
We have to go,
He says. She does not argue. She steps over the photo album and walks toward the front door. The old Ford pickup chokes and splutters as Rachel climbs in, removing the scarf from around her nose and mouth. Brian sighs.
I found this.
Reaching into the glove compartment, he takes out a photograph and holds it out to Rachel. As she touches the photograph, their fingers entwine as they had years before, standing in front of the old dilapidated bakery on that first day. I never liked the color we painted it, Rachel said, touching the photo tenderly with her thumb.
I did.
I know.
I'm sorry.
She squeezes his hand. Rachel takes a last, lingering look at the photograph before winding down the window and letting the wind snatch it out of her hand. A roar of defiance against the death of day, and the truck heads down Main Street, disappearing into the storm.